A long-lost letter written by Princess Diana has finally surfaced, and its shocking revelations could spell trouble for Camilla. Hidden for decades, this message lays bare Diana's raw emotions about the woman who played a role in the collapse of her marriage. The truth is so powerful, it could reshape how the world views the monarchy. Stay with us as we uncover the most damning details about Camilla's past. Princess Diana never shied away from speaking about the struggles in her marriage and the emotional pain of royal life. In 1992, she secretly contributed to a biography project by Andrew Morton, a respected royal expert. Frustrated with how the media portrayed her situation, she was determined to share her side of the story. To keep her involvement a secret, she never met Morton in person. Instead, she recorded her thoughts, ensuring her truth would finally be heard. At Kensington Palace, Princess Diana privately recorded her thoughts with the help of her trusted friend, Dr. James Colthurst. Acting as a go-between, he ensured her. Words reached Andrew Morton without drawing unwanted attention. These tapes held deeply personal reflections, her fears, struggles, and desperate attempts to save her marriage, despite mounting challenges. Initially, Morton denied Diana's direct involvement, wanting to protect her privacy. However, after her tragic passing in 1997, he revealed the truth. She had personally provided the information. He even released transcripts of her interviews, confirming the depth of her emotional turmoil during those years. Diana had always wanted the world to understand the pain hidden behind royal appearances. Years later, her recordings resurfaced in a documentary titled Princess Diana: The Secret Tapes, released by NBC in 2017 to mark the 20th anniversary of her passing. The film gave the public an intimate glimpse into her most private thoughts. Diana's recordings resurfaced once again, repackaged as Diana, in her own words, reigniting public interest in the painful reality she had endured. One of the most striking moments in these tapes was her account of confronting Camilla Parker, whom she suspected of having an affair with Charles. The confrontation happened at a party hosted by a mutual friend. Although Diana had long been aware of the rumors, this was the first time she directly addressed them. When she arrived at the event with Charles, she initially felt at ease upon seeing Camilla, and even approached her warmly. But as the evening progressed, something felt off. She suddenly realized that both Charles and Camilla were nowhere to be seen. Despite being advised to ignore it, Diana couldn't shake her unease. Determined to find out the truth, she searched for them and eventually made her way downstairs. There, she discovered Charles and Camilla deep in conversation with another man, someone whose face she couldn't recall. The sight sent a wave of suspicion through her, but rather than reacting emotionally, she chose to handle the situation with poise. Diana approached the situation with composure, casually joining the conversation as if nothing was wrong. When the moment felt right, she turned to Camilla and asked for a private chat. Camilla hesitated, but eventually agreed. The two men, caught off guard by the request, stepped aside, leaving Diana and Camilla alone. Though nervous, Diana found the strength to say what had been weighing on her heart. She directly acknowledged that she was aware of Camilla's involvement with Charles. Camilla, taken aback, denied the accusation, pretending to be innocent. But Diana refused to be misled. She made it clear that she knew exactly what was going on. Camilla then attempted to deflect, suggesting that Diana already had everything and implying she shouldn't ask for more. But Diana had a simple, heartfelt response. She only wanted her husband. One might have expected this confrontation to change Charles's behavior, but it had the opposite effect. On the car ride home, he remained distant, showing no concern for Diana's emotions. Instead of offering comfort or reassurance, he appeared irritated, as if the conversation had been nothing more than an inconvenience. That night, Diana couldn't sleep. The weight of reality sank in. No matter how hard she tried, saving her marriage was impossible. Heartbroken, she realized her efforts had been in vain. The documentary highlighted this painful moment, exposing the undeniable presence of a third person in the marriage, just as Diana had once described in a widely discussed interview. Over time, she accepted that fighting for Charles was futile. Emotionally, she began to let go, setting the stage for their eventual separation. However, before her tragic passing, she wrote a letter about Camilla, one that revealed long-hidden secrets. The true power struggle that shaped Diana and Charles's marriage was more shocking than anyone could have imagined. This wasn't just an affair. It was a carefully orchestrated effort to maintain control over a man who should have been devoted to his wife. The woman at the heart of it all wasn't simply someone from Charles's past. She was a relentless force, determined to keep her influence intact. No matter how much Diana tried, Camilla's hold over Charles remained unshaken, even after he married Diana. Through Diana's personal letters, a heartbreaking picture emerges of a woman who felt manipulated, cast aside, and trapped in a marriage where she was never truly wanted. These letters expose a web of emotional manipulation, carefully designed to keep Charles dependent. Guilt played a powerful role, making him feel obligated to maintain his bond with his former lover. Flattery was another tool, keeping him emotionally tied in a way that ensured Diana always came second to Camilla. This influence built an invisible wall between Diana and Charles, making it impossible for her to truly connect with her husband. She wasn't just dealing with another woman. She was facing something far more damaging. The deep emotional grip Camilla had over Charles meant Diana was always an outsider in her own marriage. No matter how hard she fought, she was up against a force she could never overcome. The pain she expressed in her letters makes one thing clear. This wasn't just an affair. It was something far more destructive. Diana's pain wasn't just about infidelity. It was about feeling insignificant, abandoned, and left to suffer while her husband's heart belonged to someone else. Charles played a direct role in her heartbreak. His emotional detachment and indifference made it impossible for Diana to feel loved or supported. A marriage should be built on trust and partnership. But instead of offering her comfort, Charles pulled away. Rather than acknowledging her pain, he distanced himself even more, making her feel like a burden rather than a wife to be cherished. She was left to struggle alone, while he continued his relationship with another woman as if it were completely normal. Even those who should have cared most remained silent. The royal family, with all its power and influence, chose to look the other way. The monarchy, an institution that prides itself on stability, ignored Diana's suffering rather than stepping in to help. Even the Queen, the one person who could have intervened, allowed Diana's distress to go unacknowledged. Instead of recognizing her pain, the royal household chose silence over support. Diana's pain wasn't just overlooked, it was deliberately hidden, as if ignoring it would make it disappear. The lingering question remains: how much did the royal family truly know, and how much did they choose to ignore? Her letters suggest they were fully aware of the emotional turmoil she endured. From the beginning, Diana knew she was facing an impossible battle. She understood the other woman's presence and the devastating role she played in tearing her marriage apart. But the depth of betrayal she experienced is something few could truly grasp. Until now. Diana described this influence as a force that slowly consumed her marriage, leaving only emptiness behind. No matter how hard she tried to mend what was, broken, the constant presence of another woman made reconciliation impossible. Her letters reveal a deep sense of helplessness, a painful realization that she had been fighting a losing battle from the very start. There was never any doubt about where Charles's heart truly belonged. Charles's relationship with Camilla wasn't just a fleeting romance. It was a deep emotional bond that overshadowed his marriage to Diana. She wasn't simply neglected. She was made to feel invisible. The loneliness she endured is clear in her words, and the betrayal was more than she could bear. Yet, the monarchy continued to turn a blind eye. Now that these letters have surfaced, the truth can no longer be hidden. Diana's suffering is no longer just speculation. The world has her own words as undeniable proof of what she endured. The carefully crafted public image that once masked reality has been shattered. The truth has broken through, revealing the painful story that remained hidden for so long. The damage done to Diana cannot be undone, and the impact of these revelations will not be easily ignored. The world now sees Charles and Camilla differently. Their carefully managed reputations have been shaken, leaving behind a truth that can never be erased. The betrayal was undeniable, and the pain Diana endured can no longer be overlooked. She never imagined she would become a stranger in her own marriage. No matter how hard she fought to keep it alive, it was never truly hers to save. Charles refused to let go of the woman he had always loved, leaving Diana trapped in a relationship built on broken promises. All she wanted was simple: love, loyalty, and a marriage based on mutual respect. What she received instead was betrayal and neglect. But now, the world finally understands just how deeply she was wronged. Diana lived in a marriage that was never truly hers. Every moment with Charles was a reminder that his heart belonged to someone else. She had known about Camilla from the beginning, but hope convinced her that love, commitment, or even duty might hold their marriage together. That hope was shattered when Charles made it clear he had no intention of letting go of the woman who had always lingered in the shadows. No public appearance, no royal duty, and no official event could change the painful reality she lived with every day. Diana carried the weight of a painful truth, while the world saw only the picture-perfect image she presented. She stood beside. Charles smiled for the cameras and fulfilled her royal duties, all while knowing his heart belonged to someone else. What made it even worse was that she wasn't the only one who knew. The Queen had the power to step in and put an end to the humiliation. Yet she chose silence over support. That silence spoke louder than any words ever could. Diana was left completely alone, in a world that had once promised her love and unity. The man she had married had chosen someone else, and the institution she had dedicated herself to had chosen to ignore her pain. What made it even harder to bear was Camilla's complete lack of shame. There was no effort to keep the affair hidden, no attempt at discretion. She didn't stay in the background or keep her distance. Instead, she made herself known, attending events, inserting herself into royal circles, and openly defying the very vows that were meant to be sacred. Diana's letters revealed moments when Camilla's presence felt deliberately cruel, almost as if she was daring her to react, challenging her to break. But the most painful part was that Diana could do nothing. There was no guilt on Charles's part. If she ever hoped for remorse, an apology, or even a moment of reflection, she was left disappointed time and time again. He never saw himself as having done anything wrong. Whenever she confronted him, he dismissed her pain, deflected responsibility, and carried on as if their marriage wasn't falling apart. The cold indifference in his response was just as devastating as the betrayal itself. Through it all, Diana's greatest concern was never herself. It was her children. She worried about what all of this would mean for them, how they would see their father when they were old enough to understand. She wanted to shield them from the heartbreak that had become her reality. But the more she fought to protect them, the more isolated she became. She longed to leave. But Diana, feared that if she left, she might lose her children too. But even staying meant enduring a marriage where she no longer had a place. Her letters painted a heartbreaking picture, not just of a man in love with someone else, but of a man completely under another's influence. Charles didn't seem to belong to himself. His decisions, his actions, even the way he treated his wife, all appeared to be guided by someone else. Diana wasn't just fighting for her marriage. She was fighting against a force that had already won. The more she tried to hold on, the more she realized the truth. She had lost Charles long before their wedding vows were ever spoken. It was evident in the way he made decisions, how he handled family matters, and how he dismissed her as if she no longer mattered. Camilla's presence wasn't just a shadow in their lives. It was taking over. While her influence grew, Diana's role in Charles's life continued to shrink. To the world, she was a glamorous princess. But behind closed doors, she was fighting a battle she had no chance of winning. Every time she tried to reclaim even a small part of what was hers, Diana was left with nothing but heartbreak, humiliation, and the painful truth. No matter what she did, she would never be the one Charles truly wanted. She wasn't his wife in the way a marriage should be. She was merely a part of an institution that valued appearances over people, and through it all, Charles made his choices clear. He canceled plans, pulled away from his wife, and prioritized the other woman at every opportunity. This wasn't a mistake or a lapse in judgment. It was a deliberate pattern. He had made his decision long ago, and it wasn't Diana. Not even their children were enough to change that. Meanwhile, a recent revelation about Camilla's first marriage has brought new attention to the affair. A recently released documentary sheds light on the complex dynamics between Andrew Parker Bowles, Camilla's first husband, and her well-known relationship with Prince Charles. It reveals that Andrew was not only aware of the affair, but that it was anything but secret. There was little effort to conceal the affair, and those within their social circles were well aware of what was happening. Rather than reacting with outrage, Andrew Parker Bowles seemingly accepted the situation, acknowledging the deep bond his wife shared with the future king. This revelation has sparked questions about why he tolerated such a humiliating position in his marriage. Some speculate that his influential role within the Church of England played a key role in his silence. Any public scandal involving him could have had serious consequences for the royal family, given the Church's close ties to the monarchy. However, new information suggests there was more to his acceptance than just maintaining appearances. Reports indicate that Andrew's willingness to overlook the affair may have come with significant personal and financial benefits. While he endured the embarrassment of his wife's very public relationship with another man, he reportedly negotiated a deal that secured his family's future and safeguarded his own social standing. Andrew reportedly agreed to remain silent in exchange for financial security for both Camilla and their children. His 2 children with Camilla were discreetly integrated into the royal financial system, ensuring their futures were well protected. This arrangement granted them exclusive privileges never publicly acknowledged, allowing them to access benefits, rarely extended beyond the royal bloodline. Concerns have been raised about the use of royal funds to support Camilla's children, with many questioning whether it was an improper allocation of resources. The idea that money from the monarchy may have been used to sustain a relationship rooted in deception and betrayal has only fueled growing public dissatisfaction with the royal institution. Allegations of financial misuse have further eroded trust, prompting serious ethical concerns about these hidden arrangements. Adding another layer to the controversy, Andrew later revealed that his divorce from Camilla in March 1995 was not just a personal decision, but a carefully orchestrated event. Eliminate any obstacles standing in the way of Charles and Camilla's relationship. Every step, from the timing of the divorces to the gradual public acceptance of Camilla, appeared to follow a calculated strategy designed to ensure that she would eventually take Diana's place. By the time Diana and Charles finalized their divorce in 1996, Camilla was already deeply embedded in Charles's life, both personally and within royal circles. What had once been an illicit affair was now positioned as an undeniable reality, making their eventual union seem inevitable. This revelation has only fueled the long-standing belief that Diana was systematically sidelined to clear the path for Camilla. As more details continue to surface, public sentiment toward Camilla has taken another hit. Many now see the entire sequence of events not as a tragic love story, but as a carefully orchestrated plan that left Diana isolated and powerless. The perception that Diana was cast aside in favor of a predetermined outcome has only deepened. The scrutiny surrounding Charles and Camilla's relationship. She had fought for recognition, for love, for a place in a marriage that was never truly hers. But in the end, she was left isolated and emotionally drained. The relentless pressure of royal life, combined with the betrayal and manipulation she endured, took a toll on her well-being. Diana's pain was not just the result of an unfaithful husband, but of a system that seemed to enable and protect those who had wronged her. While she was publicly admired and loved, behind closed doors she felt abandoned, cast aside in favor of someone who had always been waiting in the wings. Despite it all, Diana remained resilient. She poured her energy into her children and her humanitarian work, seeking to build an identity beyond the confines of her failed marriage. She refused to be defined by the pain she endured, choosing instead to use her voice to shed light on the realities of her life and the struggles she faced. But even as she tried to move forward, the shadows of the past loomed over her. The revelations about the carefully orchestrated events leading to her divorce and the undeniable influence Camilla held over Charles only confirmed what she had known all along. She had never truly stood a chance. Now, with these new insights coming to light, the world sees her story with fresh eyes. Diana was not just a princess trapped in a broken marriage. She was a woman who fought against forces far beyond her control. And though she may no longer be here to tell her story, the truth she left behind speaks louder than ever. Feel like an outsider in her own marriage, in her own life. The loneliness was unbearable. The betrayal wasn't just from her husband. It was from the entire institution that had promised to protect and support her. Diana's letters reveal a woman who was not only heartbroken, but exhausted from the constant battle to be seen, to be valued. She had once believed in the fairy tale, but now she was trapped in a reality where her happiness had no place. Every attempt to reclaim even a shred of dignity was met with resistance, every plea for understanding ignored. Camilla's presence was no longer a hidden secret. It was an undeniable force, growing stronger with each passing day. The shift was blatant. The royal family, who had once hesitated in fully accepting her, had now paved the way for her to step into a role that Diana had once desperately tried to make her own. The cruelest part was the silence. the way no one acknowledged what was happening, the way they expected her to endure, to accept, to disappear into the background, while the life she had fought for was handed to someone else. And so, in those letters, Diana's deepest fears, her pain, her heartbreak, and her understanding of the inevitable are laid bare. She knew she had been fighting a losing battle from the start. But more than that, she knew that those around her had allowed it to happen. She felt the walls closing in, powerless as she was, gradually pushed aside. Charles's relationship with Camilla wasn't just an affair. It was a shift in power, a clear sign of where his true loyalty lay. The most heartbreaking part? The woman he had once vowed to stand beside could do nothing but watch as it all unfolded, knowing that no effort of hers could stop the inevitable. She was trapped in a battle lost long before it even began. Even before she ever wore a crown, Diana understood loneliness. But nothing could have prepared her for what lay ahead. Her life was never a fairy tale. It was a world of expectations, traditions, and silent rules. A carefully choreographed performance played out before the eyes of millions. Born on July 1, 1961, into an aristocratic family, she may have had privilege, but it never shielded her from heartbreak. Her parents' messy and very public divorce left wounds that never truly healed. Long before the world saw her as a princess, she was simply a lonely girl in a fractured home, trying to find her way. From an early age, she understood that appearances meant everything, but her childhood wasn't filled with the luxury and ease people assumed. She moved from school to school, never excelling academically, and always feeling like she didn't quite fit in. Yet, despite this, she had a warmth that naturally drew people to her. She once dreamed of becoming a ballerina, but life had other plans. By her late teens, she was living an ordinary life, working small jobs, babysitting and helping at a nursery. But the moment her name became linked to Prince Charles, everything changed. From that point on, her life was no longer her own. The public clung to the image of a shy young woman stepping into royalty, ignoring the cracks beneath the surface, the stark age difference, the absence of true love. None of it mattered. The world was captivated. The wedding in 1981 was a spectacle unlike anything before. The grand dress, the endless train, the dazzling tiara. It all created the perfect illusion. Millions tuned in, enchanted by the image of a fairy tale princess. But behind all the beauty, reality told a different story. Trouble was already brewing. Diana stepped into a marriage that was destined to fail. But motherhood became her saving grace. When William was born in 1982, followed by Harry 2 years later, she found a purpose no title or duty could ever replace. She refused to be a distant, detached royal mother. Breaking tradition, she brought her sons into the real world instead of keeping them hidden behind palace gates. She took them to amusement parks, letting them experience life beyond the royal bubble. She hugged them in public, making sure they felt the love she had longed for as a child. She wasn't just a princess. She was a devoted, hands-on mother, and the world adored her for it. But even the love of millions couldn't fix what was breaking behind closed doors. Her marriage was falling apart in plain sight. The tension, the whispers, the arguments, it was no longer hidden. The world watched as her struggles became tabloid headlines. Yet, through it all, she refused to stay silent. She spoke openly about her pain, the betrayal, and the harsh reality of her life. She was fighting against a system that had never truly accepted her. At one time, she had believed she could find her place within the royal family, that she could be the princess the world wanted her to be. But in the end, She saw the truth, and she broke free. By the time the public learned of their separation in 1992, it was hardly a surprise. Their divorce, finalized in 1996, may have taken away her official title, but it did nothing to lessen her influence. If anything, her voice grew even stronger once she was no longer bound by the palace's rules. Diana had endured deep emotional pain, yet she transformed it into something far greater than herself. She refused to fade into the background. Instead, she dedicated herself to causes many overlooked. She spent time with those who had been forgotten, people suffering from illnesses, those living with AIDS, individuals affected by leprosy, and survivors of landmines. Unlike many public figures who kept their distance, she chose to be present, offering comfort, hope, and a human touch. She didn't just offer kind words from a safe distance. She stood beside those in need. She embraced them, reminding the world that they were just as human as anyone else. One moment, in particular, changed everything. During a visit to an AIDS clinic, she reached out and shook hands with a patient, without wearing gloves. It was a simple act, but in a world consumed by fear and misinformation, it sent a powerful message. At the time, people were terrified of physical contact with those suffering from the disease, but in that instant, she shattered the stigma. The images of that moment spread across the world, challenging misconceptions and changing attitudes. Her courage was just as evident when she walked through a minefield in Angola. Landmines left behind from past wars still threatened lives, yet she stepped forward with determination. This wasn't about publicity or seeking attention. It was about bringing awareness to a crisis that had been ignored for too long. Her actions forced world leaders to listen. This wasn't just charity. It was real, lasting change. She was deeply committed to her humanitarian work, but the world refused to see her as just a woman on a mission. The press followed her relentlessly, capturing her every move and turning her life into a never-ending spectacle. Nothing was private. Her relationships, her vacations, her struggles, everything was put on display for public consumption. No matter where she went, the cameras followed, leaving her with no escape. Then, in the summer of 1997, everything spiraled out of control. It happened in Paris, in the dead of night. A car speeding through the city, desperate to outrun the relentless. Flashes of photographers who never gave her a moment's peace. Then came the tunnel. The crash. The cameras kept flashing, but this time, they weren't capturing her life. They were capturing her final moments. The chase was over, but the devastation it left behind was only beginning. The world was shaken. People struggled to comprehend what had happened. In an instant, she was gone. The grief that followed was overwhelming, unlike anything seen before. Her funeral became a global moment of mourning, a testament to the impact she had on millions. Her funeral became a global event. Streets overflowed with mourners, millions unable to contain their sorrow. World leaders, celebrities, and ordinary people stood together, all feeling as though they had lost someone close to them. But Diana's greatest impact wasn't in the headlines. It was in the way she redefined what it meant to be part of the royal family. She broke the mold, showing emotions that had long been hidden behind palace walls. She proved that compassion had a place in power, and that genuine kindness could change lives. Her sons, now adults, carry that same spirit with them. They have forged their own paths while continuing the work she began. Though her life was cut short, what she stood for, her kindness, her courage, and her ability to make a difference, will never fade. Her legacy lives on, not just in history books, but in the hearts of those she touched.